what's up guys, Chris here, back in another video. So today I want to talk a little bit about a camera that's just an interesting camera to me that we don't know exactly when it's going to come out. We do have some specs, and before I really want to get into this, I do want to talk a little bit about kind of my thoughts on a time frame, because there doesn't seem to say anything about a time frame here. This is the Panasonic S1H Mark II. First off, why do I think this camera is coming out fairly soon? Well, one, because sometime next year. I don't think it's going to be out this year, personally. I think that what we're seeing is in the camera industry, you know, the Panasonic S1H came out back 2020, 2019. I think it was 2019. I believe it was 2019, if I'm correct. Yes, 2019 it came out, and prior to that, in 2018, the S1 and S1R came out. Now, I believe that what we're going to see is an S1 and S1R Mark II before we see an S1H Mark II. Maybe they'll all come out around the same time. I don't know. I don't know about that one. But I do expect that we'll see an S1 Mark II and an S1R Mark II. Maybe not at the same time, but I do believe that you'll see it before. Now, why do I say that? Well, just because they came out first, and I think that those cameras were somewhat outdated almost from the minute they were released. And hear me out, I know you're going to say that, well, look at the specs on them. Yeah, they're beautifully spec'd cameras. For instance, you know, they had UHS 2 card slot and CF Express Type B card slot. And I think, to be honest with you, those cameras, like the S1 for instance, should, and I really think the S1R as well, should have just had 2 UHS 2 card slots, and that's it. And I also believe that they should have fully articulated screens. So I do believe that that's probably one of the major reasons why, in my opinion, you'll see an S1 and an S1R Mark II before you see an S1H. But let's get into what we've talked about. We don't have rumors on an S1R or S1H or S1 Mark II at this point. We do have rumors on an S1H Mark II. So here's the first rumor spec sheet. Now this came out back in May. I missed it because I was kind of busy out processing the military and stuff like that. So it was just one of them things. We're talking about a 34 megapixel full frame sensor, 14 plus stops of dynamic range. Panasonic cameras, I think, have some of the best dynamic range in the business. That's why I'm shooting here today on the Panasonic S5, which is basically a mini S1H currently. I got the 24-70 Sigma lens, the F2.8. Beautiful little setup. I got the XLR adapter, and I'm using this pod mic here for audio today. Built-in ND filters up to 8 stops. This would be totally freaking awesome if this actually happened. I find it slightly far-fetched for a consumer-level camera. Now, I do know that this camera is also it is approved for Netflix, so it's not really a consumer-level camera, but it does have a consumer-level price tag on it of $3,800. This S1H Mark I does. Now, we don't have a rumored price on this yet. It's probably going to be more expensive than the S1H, folks. It's probably going to be than the current. Vlog are 6.5 stops of IBIS. Panasonic, man, they just know how to do IBIS. That's one thing. They don't know how to do autofocus, but they know how to do IBIS. But with that being said, if you watch my live stream from, I don't know what day I'm uploading this video, but if you watch my live stream from last Saturday night, I did talk about the GH6 having potentially a hybrid autofocus system in there. So maybe we are going to be switching a little bit finally to a hybrid autofocus system, to a phase detect of some sort, whatever that might be. But it just says brand new depth from defocus autofocus system. Again, it could be some sort of hybrid. Maybe there's, you know, so many focus points that are phase detect, so who knows. Now, the next few things I'm going to talk about are why I believe that we could possibly getting this camera. Because while this thing came out back in 2019, it was probably the best video spec camera on the market. If you wanted a consumer level, in my opinion, consumer level video camera, this was the best. There was no S1H at the time. There was no Canon R5 at the time. There was no Canon R3 at the time. You know, there was nothing that competed with it when it came to video specs. currently, again, all those cameras are out now, so Panasonic is playing from behind because they max out at 6K 30, I believe, on the Panasonic S1H. Again, 422 10-bit, all that good stuff. It is a great video camera, but it is kind of behind the times when it comes to, you know, Sony A1. It's got 8K now. The R5 is 8K. The R3 was 6K. So 8K 24 frames per second. Now this is going to max out, according to the rumors. Again, keep that in mind. These are just rumors. At 420 10-bit, 8K 24 frames per second, 600 megabits per second. 6K 60 422 10-bit, so you can get 6K 60p at 10-bit 422 cropped. If I had to guess, it'd probably be an APS-C crop, kind of similar to the Panasonic S5. This is kind of a bummer rumor. I'm hoping that's not true because it would be nice to have the capability to shoot like that and uncropped. What can you do? 6K 24 and 30p 422 10-bit uncropped. So you will get some sort of 6K uncropped, 400 megabits per second. Cinema 4K 60p 422 10-bit at 400 megabits per second. 4K Cinema 4K at 120p 422 10-bit. Now this is cool because this is something that's going to put it far above a lot of these other cameras because none of these other ones have Cinema 4K and 120 frames per second. Like the A7S Mark III doesn't have Cinema 4K. The 4096 by 2160 aspect ratio. So, but the previous S1H did not have 4K 120, and I think that is something that whenever I watch these videos on the Panasonic or the A7S III, everybody's like, "Oh, the 4K 120 is so great," and I'm like, "Man, I'd like to have 4K 120 now for some slow motion stuff." So I think that this is kind of something that needs to happen. 4K at 180p. 420 10-bit. So that Cinema 4K 120p would be 422 10-bit. Now, these are a ton of numbers I'm throwing at you, and I apologize for that, but I'm just trying to get everything out. 420 10-bit at 4K 180p frames per second. That's 200 megabits per second. These are very precise rumors, so it kind of leads me to think that maybe some of these may be very true. Full HD 240p 422 10-bit 100 megabits per second. Full HD 300p 420 8-bit 50 megabits. Note, recording Cinema 4K will downsample from 5.6K resolution. That's pretty exciting. Especially because you can get that in the 120 frames per second. So this is going to be some super crisp 4K 120 for some slow motion stuff. The built-in END technology is similar to the Zcam END module add-on for the Zcam E2 F6F and 6S and 8F. I've been interested in Zcams, but none of the more expensive ones, so I really couldn't tell you too much about those. I've been kind of interested in some of the more inexpensive Zcam cameras. E2 ones, just the regular E2, I think. The transition from stop to another won't be smooth like the ones found in both the FX9. So you're going to see what is it? The Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K Pro might be something similar to those, where you can kind of, if you did it while you were recording, you would see it, like it would pop down. Better than not having it, right? A built-in bulkier than the original S1H due to both improved. So you're gonna have. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever held this camera, but I went down to B&H Photo in August last month, and I walked around the store, and they had an S1H on display with the 24-70 f2.8 Panasonic lens. Now I'm shooting on the Panasonic the Sigma 24-70, which is quite a bit smaller than that lens, and that is just one. And I looked at the guy, and I laughed, and he kind of laughed too, and I was like, "This is like comically large camera for a consumer level camera." Again, keep in mind, I do believe this is a consumer level camera, the S1H, even though there are plenty of professional applications for it. But I think that when it comes to professional level cameras, I'm thinking like Red, I'm thinking Arri, Alexa, things like that. I'm not thinking. I'm thinking when it comes to professional videography, I'm thinking of a camera that doesn't also take still photos. You know what I mean? So this camera obviously will still take still photos. I don't think there's a whole lot of people out there buying the S1H to take photos with. I just don't. What is interesting to me about this is a 34 megapixel full frame sensor, because the A7 IV rumors are saying 33 megapixels. And what I'm thinking that it's probably a 34 megapixel sensor and 31 megapixels is or 33 megapixels is the effective. So maybe it's using the same sensor. Now, obviously, the processors and stuff like that are going to be different. So maybe Sony is making the sensor for this camera, and that's why this rumor came out. From my knowledge, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I do believe Sony has made the other sensors for the Panasonic cameras. Again, don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure on that one. I'm assuming. I think that I'd heard that before. But anyways, that's my thoughts on the S1H Mark II. Now, when do I think this is going to come out? Probably sometime middle of next year. That would be my guess. If I had to make an educated guess right now, it'd probably be sometime middle of next year. So, yeah, interesting camera, kind of exciting. Definitely something I'm interested in. Price range wise, maybe not so much, but we'll see. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll see you guys in the next one.